Losing baby teeth is something that we've all gone through, and as painful and gross as losing a tooth may be, their monetary value makes the experience more than worth it. If you grew up in North America, chances are that you're familiar with the ritual of exchanging your blood and gum-covered teeth for money. Just place your tooth under your pillow before you go to bed, and while you sleep, a magical fairy will exchange it for cold hard cash. Though keep in mind that the exchange value of your teeth will change depending on inflation. However, despite your status as a childhood icon, right up there with Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy's mythological roots are pretty ambiguous. Where'd she come from? How old is she? And when did children start putting their baby teeth under pillows? To be honest, there seems to be no clear-cut answer to any of these questions. So yeah, this is a very short video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Wait, I'm just kidding. While there is no concrete mythology for the Tooth Fairy, there are a few viable sources that we can check out. A child losing their first tooth is an important milestone in most cultures, and every country seems to have their own rituals regarding what to do with baby teeth. In fact, one researcher named B.R. Townend helpfully divided these rituals into 9 categories. Number 1. The tooth was thrown to the sun. I don't know how they did this, maybe with some kind of catapult? A toothapult? Number 2. Thrown to the fire. Number 3. Thrown in between the legs. Number 4. Thrown onto or over the roof of a house, often with an invocation to some animal or individual. Number 5. Placed in a mouse hole or offered to some other kind of animal. Number 6. Buried. Number 7. Hidden where animals couldn't get it. Number 8. Placed in a tree or on a wall. And number 9. Swallowed by the mother, child, or animal. I actually performed this ritual once when I was a kid, though not on purpose. So the rituals surrounding children's teeth have a long and varied history. But as you'll notice, none of these traditions involve fairies. And that's because the Tooth Fairy is believed to be a relatively recent invention. The Tooth Fairy didn't appear in written form until 1927, and by most accounts, the character didn't become popular until after World War II. However, while the Tooth Fairy herself may not be very old, it's possible that she was adapted from an older mythological figure. One such candidate is Marantaga, a toothless Phoenician witch who exchanges children's teeth for coins during the night. While the myth of Marantaga shares certain similarities with that of the Tooth Fairy, namely the figure's inability to properly ascertain the value of baby teeth, Marantaga's depiction as a toothless old witch is in stark contrast to the appearance of the Tooth Fairy, who is, well, a fairy. Another, more probable source for the Tooth Fairy is La Petite Soeur, the little mouse, or the tooth mouse as he's more commonly known. In France, when a child loses a tooth, they place it under their pillow for the tooth mouse, who comes in the night and exchanges it for cash. For an explanation as to why a mouse would have money or need teeth, go watch Ernest and Celestine. While the tooth mouse is not the only Tooth Fairy-esque figure in French mythology, for instance, according to one tradition, the Virgin Mary is the one responsible for exchanging children's teeth for coins and presents. She is the most well-known figure. As for the fairy connection, that may in fact stem from a French short story called La Bonne Petite Soeur, or The Good Little Mouse. This story, written by Madame du Delaunay in the 17th century, features a fairy who uses her powers, chiefly her power to turn into a mouse, to help a queen and her daughter escape the clutches of an evil king and his son, by indirectly murdering them. So, problem solved, right? Well, the truth is that the good little mouse never acts in the capacity of Tooth Fairy, as there's no point in the story where she exchanges teeth for money. She does hide under the king's pillow at one point, and also demonstrates her ability to fly across the world via a magic chariot, but other than that, she doesn't seem to bear much of a similarity to the modern Tooth Fairy. While it's true that an English version of La Bonne Petite Sœur was imported to the United States in the 1920s, well before the Tooth Fairy tradition became popular in the 40s and 50s, it's difficult to determine exactly how much influence the story had on the Tooth Fairy mythos. However, while the mythology of the Tooth Fairy is somewhat ambiguous, her continued popularity in America can be traced back to three main factors. According to Tataluja, a journalist and researcher, the increased popularity of the Tooth Fairy after World War II was due primarily to number 1, an increase in prosperity in America. With the end of the Great Depression and World War II, parents could now afford to spend a little extra money on their children. Number 2, after World War II, the focus of American families became very kid-centric, so parents wanted to spend more time, money, and energy on their kids. And number 3, the prevalence of the good fairy archetype in children's media. Not long after the war, companies like Disney created popular fairy characters that helped to cement the good fairy archetype as a figure in children's media. For example, both Cinderella and Peter Pan came out less than a decade after World War II, and feature fairy characters, one of which is still immensely popular. So, in short, the modern Tooth Fairy could have derived from a number of different cultural traditions, all of which are probably rooted in old world rituals regarding the importance of children's baby teeth. That's actually a fairly complicated and interesting backstory. Definitely a lot more entertaining than either of the live-action Tooth Fairy movies. Well, that's it for this rendition of Tales from Around the World. A bit of a strange way to start the series, but I promise next video will be more story-centered. As always, I must ask you to please remember to support your local library, and I'll be seeing you.